Today's lesson will cover Chapter 11 on industry. Industry is divided by 4 different subcategories or key issues. Where is industry distributed? Why are situation and site factors important? Why do industries face resource challenges? And why are industries changing locations? Let us begin with key issue 1. Where is industry distributed? The hearth of modern industry, meaning the manufacturing of goods in a factory, was in northern England and southern Scotland during the second half of the 18th century. From this hearth, industry diffused to the rest of Europe and North America in the 19th century and to other regions in the 20th century. So the first major industrial revolutions happened in Europe and then North America. The Industrial Revolution led to innovations in mass production of iron, transportation, textiles, chemicals, and food processing. Fossil fuels have become the primary source of energy. The world uses coal, petroleum, and natural gas as fossil fuels that provide energy. Take a look at Figure 11-1 located on page 384 of your textbook. Watt's engine was effective at transforming heat energy into mechanical power. This invention is what made the Industrial Revolution possible and mass production possible. Take a look at the map in Figure 11-2. The development of railways traces the diffusion of the Industrial Revolution across Europe. As the Industrial Revolution spread, you can also see that it was made possible through the construction of different railroads. You can check out the different years in which railroads expanded. In order for industrialization to occur, you need energy. Figure 11-3 shows different energy sources that help industrialization mass produce. As you can see, petroleum, coal, and natural gas, all fossil fuels, together are the largest sources of energy in the world. There are 3 primary regions in which industry is concentrated. Take a look at Figure 11-4. You can see that North America, Europe, and East Asia are where the biggest concentrations are. In addition, 1/2 of the world's industrial output is clustered in 4 countries: China, the United States, Japan, and Germany. Key issue 2, why are situation and site factors important? We'll distinguish the difference between site and situation, looking at where factories may be located. First, let's distinguish the difference between situation and site. Situation factors involve transporting materials to and from a factory. A firm seeks a location that minimizes the cost of transporting inputs to the factory and finished goods to consumers. Site factors result from the unique characteristics of a location. These might include the labor, capital, or land that is available there. So just to recap, situation is going to be connected to benefits in a location of a factory to where they might be able to sell those products in a market. And site is going to have to do with all of the products that are going to make the efficiency of producing that product easier. Let's look at a specific type of industry, a bulk gaining industry. This is where the product will gain weight or bulk during production. These factories need to be very close to their markets. It usually means that they are single market manufacturers, perishable products, or motor vehicles. Real common single market manufacturers will include auto parts that might be located close to an auto manufacturer. The auto manufacturer may not want to have so much of a large inventory around, and so these markets can be especially beneficial for those big factories. So you've got the component manufacturers that have their own factories, and they can be delivering and providing services to the main auto manufacturers. Another example of industries that need to be really close to the market are industries that produce perishable products. So of course, if we're looking at food, we know that the shorter the shelf life, the closer it needs to be to market so that it can reduce the amount of time necessary to travel. With motor vehicles, they're also really heavy. So you'll find that auto manufacturers often tend to be closer to the markets. Now, we know that there are major international automakers, and so they may actually be based in their home country, but then have different factories around the world closer to their markets. Take a look at figure 11-12. This is located on page 390 of your textbook. You can see that beer production is a bulk gaining industry. So you'll see that the bottling takes place near large population clusters. Again, as the product is finalized, it gains a lot more weight. And so being closer in proximity to the market just means that it's not as heavy and you don't need as many transportation methods in order to get that product to market. Again, here you can see motor vehicle production and sales, figures 11-13 and 11-14. You can see that vehicles are mostly produced in the right in areas where they are sold in the top left, representing a bulk gaining industry. Figure 11-15 shows that cars sold in North America may not be assembled in North America, and those assembled in North America use different proportions of North American parts. Situation factors have changed for steel. In the past, steel production was a good example of bulk reducing industry that located near its inputs. Because of the need for large quantities of bulky heavy iron ore and coal, steel making traditionally clustered near sources of the two key raw materials. Within the United States, the distribution of steel production has changed several times because of changing inputs. As sources and importance of these inputs changed, so did the optimal location for steel production within the United States. We see now that steel mini mills are based on proximity to sources of recycled metal, and worldwide production has shifted to developing countries, especially in China. As you can see in figure 11-17, located on page 392 of your textbook, steel mini mills are located closer to markets, which also serve as a source of scrap metal. Figure 11-18 shows that in 1980, world steel production was concentrated in developed countries. And although this figure is a little dated, figure 11-19 shows that by 2013, world steel production had shifted to developing countries. Again, demonstrating that China has taken the lead in the world's leading producer of steel. Transportation is a major consideration for industries. They've got to think about the most cost-effective way to get products to market. Trucks are used for short distance delivery. They're faster with loading. Trains are more efficient for longer distances. Ships are more cost efficient for very long distances. Airplanes are used for speed with high value, but they usually transport low bulk items. Some industries are located at break of bulk points, and others are located for just-in-time delivery. Industries that are located at break of bulk points typically means that the transportation method is split into two or more different methods. So for example, something can be transported from a different country across sea by ship, and then later be transported to a different place of market within a region of a country by truck. Just-in-time delivery might be beneficial for an industry if they want to cut back on storage costs and they don't want to have huge, massive inventories, and so they may be able to get products delivered just in time to be able to use them in the final product and then get them out of the factory. Take a look at figure 11-20 located on page 394 of your textbook. This indicates truck freight movements and that they are concentrated mostly on the eastern side of the United States. This next figure, figure 11-21, shows rail freight movements. Those happen to be between the east and the west. So again, rail movements have to do with railroads. And this next image, figure 11-22, will show that shipping is also another method. Shipping occurs between North America, Europe, and industrial centers in Asia. You can see in the map all the different routes. Now that we've finished talking about situation, let's talk about site factors in industry. Site factors have to do with labor, capital, and land. Labor has to do with the price and skill level, especially important for labor-intensive industries. So, a factory might want to be situated where the best skilled labor can be found. Next, looking at capital, where might factories be able to borrow the amount of money necessary to start a business or start the production of a particular type of product? And lastly, what about the land? How expensive might it be to actually build an industrial factory somewhere? How accessible might that be? So all of these factors are going to play into site. Delving in a little deeper, let's look at figure 11-23 located on page 396 of your textbook. This graph shows the average hourly manufacturing wages in 14 of the 15 largest industrial countries. As you can see, wages are far less expensive and far cheaper in developing countries versus developed countries. It is no surprise that a lot of outsourcing happens to these countries. Looking at clothing and site factors, spinning yarn is very labor intensive, so it's increasingly done in developing countries where the time necessary and the labor necessary is far less expensive. Weaving yarn into fabric is also labor intensive and is another process. The majority of assembly in developing countries may happen, but developed countries may play a larger role, especially when it comes to designing and also when it comes to consuming. Figure 11-27 shows cotton spinning, and nearly 1/2 of the world cotton yarn is spun in China and India. In figure 11-28, you can see in the map that 90% of all cotton is woven in China and India. Looking at figure 11-29, we can see that proximity to markets is a very important consideration for clothing assembly. Developed countries play a larger role in assembly than in spinning and weaving because most of the consumers of assembled products are located in developed countries. Despite this, however, most clothing is assembled in developing countries. Overall production costs are generally lower in developing countries because substantially lower labor costs compared to developed countries offset higher shipping and taxation costs.